Professor Martin Morad,
Yes.
thank you so much for accepting our invitation to Hungary. We are honored to have you here with us tonight. So your career in cardiac physiology and electrophysiology and understanding the heart function had made groundbreaking discoveries in cardiology. So I would start with an opening question about translational medicine. So translational medicine is defined in too many different ways these days. What does translational medicine mean to you personally in your field?
To me personally, translational medicine means that the scientific discoveries are applied to solve a human disease or a human misfunction. In my opinion, for example, we have made fundamental discoveries in how the pacemaker works. And we have, of course, electronic pacemakers that cost the patient a lot and the hospital a lot. Many cardiologists make lots of money applying these little electronic battery-driven pacemakers. So my dream is that based on my discoveries, we can build a tissue-based pacemaker, a biological pacemaker that we couldn't put in a patient, and a patient can live for another 100 years without changing batteries and all this stuff. So that's what really it means to me. But there are many smaller discoveries that help translational medicine based on a specific drug that you discover through a specific line. So, translational medicine is a very big thing. But the public needs to understand that translational medicine is based on fundamental science, fundamental discoveries. Without the fundamental discovery, there is no translational science. Yeah. So many universities, many people make the political mistake saying, I want to do translational medicine. I think it's wrong. In my opinion, they should follow fundamental science. They make a discovery, then they say, how can I apply this to a human disease? That's translational medicine.
That's really insightful. And what do you think is the biggest challenge of translating scientific results into real-world benefits?
Yeah. Well, it's difficult it's a very good question you ask, and it's multifactorial, the answer. Because we have an enormous industry that works on translational medicine thing. Pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, bioengineering companies. These make billions of dollars. And if you look at the stock market, they're trillions of dollars. And yet, it is not really translational medicine. It is a profit situation where these guys want to make huge amount of profit and they push specific ideas. If in an idealistic world, if I were the king of the universe, I would say, give the money and the support to fundamental science, and those discoveries that were valuable, then you apply them to human beings and would be terrific. I mean, that's how life used to be 50 years ago. But now things have changed. In the last 25 years, things have changed, and the medical students or science students, they all want to do translational science. And it is, I I fear it's the wrong way to go. But, you know, it's only my opinion, so it doesn't matter.
So during your visit yesterday to Szeged,
Yes.
you gave a talk to more than 4,500 secondary school students.
Yes.
And today in Budapest, you gave a talk to more professional audience,
Yes.
medical doctors,
Yes.
supervisors,
Yes.
junior
Yes.
PhD
Yes.
students.
Yes. Yes.
How did your message change based on the audience?
Yes.
And what is one message you would like both audiences
Yes.
to take home, regardless of the level?
Yes. It's a very, very good question. The two talks were similar. The talks today had more fundamental, basic science data because I wanted the doctors and the graduate students to realize I wasn't dreaming. I was just telling the story about it. Yesterday's talk was for high school students who do not have the ability to judge whether I am telling the truth or whether I am telling them just a story. But I was impressed by the students that came to me after my talk. High school students. They seem to have understood. And the message was that we can, based on fundamental science, we can develop a tissue-based pacemaker that can help change a life, could change the medical paradigm of how we treat patients.
All right. Yeah. And how important do you think exposing school students at early stage of their career before they even go to university to science, and how would that possibly change their future career possibilities?
What in my opinion, is that based on my own experience, is that this is a terrific program. Not because it's just Hungarian, but I think they have the model right. That you teach students, excite them at a very young age of 15, 16. You know, some of the students I talked to today were 15 or 16 years old.
Yeah.
And a lot of were girls. You know, when I was growing up, the girls were not in medicine. There were 8 girls and 2 boys. And the girls were very interested and very knowledgeable. So, and they told me that they really liked my talk. Of course, it's always good to hear that.
Yeah.
But they had understood. So I think you are reaching them. This program is reaching them. And you may think I was a very successful scientist, but I don't think so. I don't think that way about myself. I always feel I was unprepared for the scientific world. I was good in history, I was good in music, and I never was taught this fundamental science. If I were taught like that, I would be also in Stockholm. But I didn't have the training, right? I had a biomedical training, so I couldn't really understand these, the finity, the nuances that you need, the tools that you need to be a good scientist. So if you're going to make a good scientist, you need to give him the tools. And the tools is, he needs to know about chemistry, he needs to know about biology, he needs to know about genetic editing. I hadn't even heard about those things when I was growing up being a scientist. So you learn them late in life, but life, biology, life comes to an end. So only you have this special period in which you. So I think, honestly, it's the best program for science I have seen anywhere. And it's, I wish we could have a program like that in America. We don't. We don't have, you go to college, you go to university, you learn biology, then you go take a degree, and you're unprepared. And if you had a program like this in America, I think we would have been winning every Nobel Prize. And what the truth is, that most of our Nobel Prizes come from Europeans, Chinese, Japanese, who come to America. They're better prepared than we are.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that takes me to my another question about mentorship. We talked a lot about mentorship, and looking back at your journey, how important was mentorship for you by shaping your career in cardiology?
It's an interesting issue, right? Professor Hasselbach, who was one of the Max Planck Institute guy, told me when I was about 27, 28, he said, if you go to work with a mentor, with a person, and after a year or two, if you don't think the guy, you're smarter than him, you're in the wrong place. So, yes, I think mentor means a lot because it can guide you. But mentors are a dangerous thing, right? Many mentors can use you to become famous. So you need a mentor that doesn't think about himself, thinks about you. Yeah. And that's very difficult because most scientists are also competing. Yeah. Right? And if they're competing in what? Competing in getting a better grant, getting a professorship, right? One of my favorite line is, show me a professor and I show you an artifact. So it's sort of so everybody is in a mentorship. And mentoring in high school, terrific idea. Mentoring in graduate school, when you're making discoveries, when you're a graduate student, is totally different issue. Yeah. I went to Heidelberg, a very famous guy, very famous, a wonderful, and I did my own things, right? And I hardly saw him. He knew nothing about the area I was working on. And in the end, he read my paper. He said, he would like to have his name on this paper. I said, of course, Herr Professor. He was German, right? Of course, Herr Professor. I'm here and you sit in your department, But if I had gone to a real mentor who would have said, yes, you do this experiment, not that experiment, I would have been very, very successful scientist. You may think I'm successful. In my own eyes, I don't think I'm that successful. I've just lived a long life.
Yeah. And then with this modern technology nowadays,
yes,
what excites you the most about the future of cardiology?
Yes. Gene editing.
Yeah.
I think that's the most exciting. So I give you an example. So about 8 years, or in 2008, I went from Washington, where I had a wonderful life, had a life, very good social life, and I was in a very famous university, one of the oldest American universities, Georgetown. And I got recruited by South Carolina, which is okay, the university is okay, but it doesn't have that old tradition, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I went there because I was allowed to work on stem cells. In the Catholic University in Washington, stem cells were not au courant. They were against Christian ethics, right? Of course, that was because it was embryonic stem cells. So I started doing stem cells in South Carolina. And I realized that if I can make out of a stem cell a heart cell, and then I realized a lot of arrhythmias, a lot of rhythms of the heart, all the pathology of the heart, are related to mutations. Oh, my God. So it said you can make stem cells out of these mutations. But then some of the patients had died, so you couldn't have their tissue. Then somebody came out and discovered CRISPR-Cas gene editing technique. That immediately gave me the idea that I don't need the patient. I need to take a normal patient cells. I can edit the gene that's causing, we know, such and such gene with a mutation that it has causes this disease. So I make other normal cells. Suddenly I had every 200 different mutation I could work on. I didn't need to run around to this hospital or that hospital and find the patient is dead and I don't have his tissue. So I think gene editing is an enormously powerful technique. And it's not been recognized yet that it is such an honor. So I think the future of medical, clinical investigation is going to be using a lot of gene editing. And of course, the techniques are improving. At the moment, you do gene editing, you have 1% success. That means you have to mutate that damn thing 100 times before you get one line of cells that's good. Well, with the new technology, you may have to only 10 times. So you'll be very efficient. I am very excited about that. So genetic editing is very important. And of course, a whole field of live imaging, like you saw,
Especially
yesterday.
in cardiology,
Yes, in cardiology. This is going to be enormous.
Yeah.
When I was your age, I was an assistant professor at the University of Pennsylvania, one of the oldest medical university in America. And I was using microelectrode to measure action potentials. Then I discovered that there is a dye that actually can put on the heart, and I can measure action potentials with optically looking at it. Then, of course, I could scan the whole damn thing. I could measure 128 action potential in 5 milliseconds.
Wow.
So I could imagine immediately, right? So then I told my cardiology friend, talking about translational medicine, they were not interested in this. Of course, now it's a big deal. But 25 years ago, I told them, we could really image the heart and can actually see where arrhythmia is coming from. You have a precise EKG, not an average EKG. So there are such technology, I think, still exists. And God knows, tomorrow somebody else will make some other discovery, and you should apply it in cardiology. It'll be terrific, right?
So my final closing question to you, if you could describe these two programs, the National Academy of Science Education for secondary school students and the Center for Translation Medicine for master and PhD training programs, if you could describe it in 3 words, what would be these 3 words for you?
I think the first word comes in my mind is innovative.
Innovative.
Right? So that is really fresh, very innovative. And the other thing comes to my mind is that the students are so excited about it. So they are really turned on, right? It's really every student I met, whether they were 16 years old or resident in a hospital, they seem to be very excited about what they heard I told them about the science.
Yeah.
So that means that they understood something. So you could put it in a more medical term. The gene pool is good in Hungary.
Yeah.
The gene pool is very good. And you have, there's evidence, right?
Yeah.
This is a nation of 8 or 9 million, and you have 5, 6 Nobel laureates in different fields.
Yeah.
Come on. India has 1.2 billion, has less Nobel laureates than you do. Yeah. We in America have a lot of Nobel laureates, but all of them, most of them, come from Europe, from China, from Japan. Yep. So there is something this program can do. I believe the program can be the source, the breeding ground. You know what that means? Breeding. The breeding is like like breeding animals. Yeah. A breeding ground for scientists of Europe.
Yeah.
That's what I think. That's why I am interested. Coming in here, I am happy to do that. And, anyway, that's what I think.
Professor Morad, thank you once again for accepting our invitation to visit Hungary, to inspire the new generation. Thank you so much for your time and dedication to science.
You're very kind to say so. It is my pleasure. It really is my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay.